very good evening to all of you. It is with great honor and profound joy that I welcome you to this esteemed occasion. This is Dr. Nalanda, faculty in Nalanda University, and it is my great privilege to invite and welcome you all for this inaugural lecture of the Rajbhavan Nalanda University Special Lecture Series. And we are extremely privileged to have the honored presence of His Excellency Shri Rajbhavan, Honorable Governor of Bihar. Shri Swaminathan Gurumurthy, Partner Director, Central Board, Reserve Bank of India, Editor, Tughlaq, Nepal. Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, Honorable Vice Chancellor of our Nalanda University. Please welcome them to the Rajbhavan. We also extend our hearty welcome to all the dignitaries, officials and the faculty, students who have joined us from Nalanda University and other universities. Before we proceed any further, let me request to rise at the position for our national anthem. This evening's theme, Atmanirbharta and Mother in a multipolar world, to be delivered by Shri Swaminathan Gurumurthy could not be more timely. We live in an era where nations are redefining their identities like never before. India's focus on self-reliance with the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. America is reasserting national focus. China is reshaping global supply chains. Europe is recalibrating its partnership. The question is not whether nations should protect their interests. Of course they should. The question is, can we be self-reliant without being self-absorbed? This is where India's vision of Atmanirbharta becomes very significant. In this pursuit, the Rajbhavan Nalanda University Special Lecture Series is not merely an event, it is a covenant, a promise between the institution of governance and learning, between the urgencies of today and the wisdom of millennia. This lecture series is a living testimony to Nalanda's ancient and unbroken tradition of arriving at knowledge and truth through dialogue, Vaad and Samvad. And as some of us had the privilege of learning from Shri Gurumurthy Ji this morning, this unique philosophical and pedagogical approach enabled India to avoid bloodshed and violence over centuries. The series is also aimed at building again the integrated study system that made Nalanda exceptional. A place where glorious discipline enriched each other, where philosophy informed science, where linguistics shaped logic, where mathematics met metaphysics, and where statecraft drew from spiritual ideas the oneness of humanity. Knowledge was never fragmented in silos. It was understood as an integrated whole, a unity in diversity, a Sampurna Vidya. In this Nalanda spirit, each lecture will be a lecture in the darkness, illuminating pathways from Patna to the world. And what better way to ignite this flame than with Shri Gurumurthy Ji's insights today. Now, in this tradition of our ancient Gurukuls, where every session of learning began with the invocation of light over darkness, knowledge over ignorance, we now proceed with the Dweep Pracharan, the lighting of the ceremonial lamp. And to do the honor, I will request His Excellency Shri Rajbhavan Khan, Shri Gurumurthy Ji, and Professor Shri Chaturvedi Ji to kindly come forward for the lamp lighting ceremony. Please join them in this spirit with a resounding round of applause. Where there is a light, there is learning. Where there is learning, there is liberation. The flame symbolizes the eternal pursuit of truth, Satyam Jayate, the dispelling of ignorance, Tamsoma Jyotirgamam. As the Buddha who attained enlightenment right here in Bihar under the Bodhi tree in Bodhgaya proclaimed, thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the light of candle will not be shortened. Knowledge and happiness never decrease by being shared. Likewise, the Lord Mahavir, who taught in this sacred land, became the living epitome of how one awakening can spark countless awakenings. So with this spirit of awakening, let us start the event today. Thank you very much, everyone. And now we are honored to hear a globally respected economist and academician under whose inspiring stewardship the Nalanda University is witnessing a comprehensive renaissance at all fronts, starting from integrated curriculum content for holistic solution to global challenges, pedagogical revitalization in the spirit of Tark and Nyaya, Sahagita with Bihar communities, rethinking policies, and forging meaningful ties with institutions across Asia, Southeast Asia, Central Asia, Europe, and beyond. So I take the privilege to request our Vice Chancellor to kindly deliver the welcome address. Please welcome him to the meeting.
आदरणीय राज्यपाल महोदय, हम सबके प्रिय आदरणीय विभूति जी, आज जिस लेक्चर सीरीज को हम लोग शुरू कर रहे हैं, ये एक महत्वपूर्ण इनिशिएटिव हमने आदरणीय राज्यपाल जी के साथ चर्चा में सोचा है, समझा और आगे बढ़ाने का प्रयास किया है। हम लोग सोच रहे थे कि कुछ सभी विश्वविद्यालयों के साथ मिलकर के एक ऐसी लेक्चर सीरीज शुरू की जाए। आदरणीय राज्यपाल महोदय का सोच था कि सारे जितने कुलपति हैं यहाँ पर बिहार में उन लोगों के साथ मिलकर के कुछ चर्चा का एक प्लेटफॉर्म बनाया जाए, कुछ ऐसा सोचा जाए जिसमें हम लोग जो हमारे सामयिक विषय हैं उनपे कुछ चिंतन हो, कुछ मनन हो, कुछ सोच हो और उसका एक ऐसा स्वरूप निकले जो राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर नीति के निर्माण में सहयोग करें, राज्य स्तर पर करें और डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पर करें। तो ये एक सोच के साथ आज की राजभवन नालंदा विश्वविद्यालय व्याख्यानमाला का हम प्रारंभ कर रहे हैं। इसका उद्देश्य सिर्फ नालंदा विश्वविद्यालय नहीं, सभी विश्वविद्यालयों को जोड़ना है, सभी विश्वविद्यालयों के साथ मिलकर के काम करना है और उन विश्वविद्यालयों का भी नाम उस अगले लेक्चर सीरीज में साथ में हम जोड़ सकते हैं, जिसमें हम सहभागी होकर के ये जो आज दीप प्रज्वलन हुआ है, जो विज्ञान का दीप हम लोगों ने आज यहाँ सभी विश्वविद्यालयों की तरफ से प्रज्वलित किया है। मैं समझता हूँ आने वाले वर्षों में हम कई अलग अलग क्षेत्रों में कई अलग अलग विषयों पर इस व्याख्यानमाला को करेंगे। आदरणीय राज्यपाल महोदय जी से जब मैं चर्चा कर रहा था तो हम लोगों ने सोचा कि इसे हम मासिक रूप से और अगले कुछ व्याख्यान में हम लोगों ने तय करेंगे। उसमें देश के कुछ प्रमुख वैज्ञानिक भी शामिल, कुछ लेखक और चिंतक भी शामिल और हमने मार्च तक का एक स्वरूप सोचा है। आप लोगों के साथ मिलकर के हम इस व्याख्यानमाला को और आगे बढ़ाएंगे। यहाँ आने वाले जो हमारे वक्ता होंगे वो अलग अलग विश्वविद्यालयों का भी दौरा कर सके और कुछ हम लोग साथ में मिलकर के सोच सके। इसके संबंध में राज्यपाल महोदय और भी बैठक करेंगे हम लोगों के साथ और मैं समझता हूँ कि महत्वपूर्ण विषय सामने निकलेंगे। पूजा ने अभी हम लोगों के सामने आज का विषय रखा है, उस विषय का एक स्वरूप आप लोगों के सामने ऑलरेडी रखा गया है। कुछ बिंदुओं पर माननीय राज्यपाल जी ने मुझे कहा कि मैं कुछ बिंदु रखने का प्रयास करूँगा और फिर हम सबके लिए विभूति जी को सुनेंगे। उनका चिंतन, लेखन सब अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण रहा है और उससे कई विचार निकले हैं। मुझे रिजर्व बैंक के बोर्ड में बैठने के कारण कई जगह गुरु के कई ऐसे सेंटेंसेस सुनने में आते हैं, कई ऐसे वाक्य सुनने में आते हैं जिसका अपने स्तर पर विशेष अध्ययन करने की आवश्यकता है। आज समय सीमा है और मैं उसका पालन भी करूँगा। मैं सोचता हूँ कि कुछ विषय ऐसे हैं जो कई पर्सपेक्टिव से देखे जा सकते। आज का जो विषय है, जहाँ हम आत्मनिर्भरता की बात कर रहे हैं, जहाँ हम मागा की बात करें, लेकिन अमेरिका ग्रेट अगेन या आत्मनिर्भर भारत, इन दोनों में क्या विरोधाभास है, क्या क्या समानता है, क्या इन देशों का सोच है जब वो आत्मनिर्भर की बात करते हैं, जब वो मागा की बात करते हैं, कौन सा देश अंतर्मुखी हो रहा है और कौन सा देश बाहरमुखी हो रहा है, ये अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण विषय है. But in next few minutes, I will quickly capture some of the broad contours of three words that are bothering both MAGA and also Atmanirbhar. These three words are growth, economic growth, inclusion and sustainability. तो growth, inclusion और sustainability की जो ये ट्रिनिटी है, ये हम लोगों को कई डायमेंशन से प्रभावित कर रही है. आज के जो हमारे आर्थिक प्रगति के स्रोत हैं उनको प्रभावित कर रही है, लेकिन हमारे सामने सबसे बड़ी चुनौती किसी भी हाल में जो हमारा आर्थिक विकास है उसको इंश्योर करें. आर्थिक विकास कैसे संभव हो, किन डायमेंशंस में संभव हो, तब जबकि हमारे सामने एक ट्विन शॉकर आ चुका है. और ये जो ट्विन शॉकर है ये जियोपॉलिटिक्स है और ये टैरिफ और जियोपॉलिटिक्स का ये जो ट्विन शॉक हमारे सामने है, इसकी कई चुनौतियां कई स्वरूप में हैं और कई तरह के हमारे सामने मसले इससे खड़े हुए. अगर हम उनको थोड़ा विस्तृत रूप में देखें तो उनसे चार बातें निकल कर के आती हैं. वो चारों बातें आपस में जुड़ी हुई भी हैं और अपने आप में अलग भी हैं. These four factors which are coming out of geopolitics and tariff, they are elevated uncertainty. एक तरह की अनिश्चितता हमारे सामने आ गई है. उस अनिश्चितता का हम सामना कैसे करें? वो जो चुनौती है वो आर्थिक क्षेत्र में भी है, सामाजिक क्षेत्र में भी है, वो सांस्कृतिक क्षेत्र में भी है और जो हमारे अंतर्राष्ट्रीय संबंध हैं उनमें भी. उसके चलते एक सप्लाई चेन डिस्ट्रप्शन हुआ. उसमें चाइना ने हमें रोका है. चाइना को याद होगा जब कोविड हुआ, चाइना ने हमें जहाज, पानी के जहाज देने से मना कर दिया. अधिकतर हमारे पानी के जहाज चाइना से किराए पे लेते थे, पेट्रोल लेकर आने थे, ऑयल लेकर आने थे और इसलिए उसका कॉस्ट हमारा. So this disruption that has happened largely because of geopolitics, largely because of the global uncertainty that we see in relations, has led to the third factor, which is higher cost. So elevated uncertainty, supply chain disruption, and higher cost are the three factors. The fourth is the destabilizing effect of these three. So how this uncertainty that is happening, it has affected monetary policy across countries. Rate of interest are affected because de-dollarization de facto has started, and as a result you see supply chain disruption, petrodollar disruption, and you see the economic destabilization across countries. So economic growth is seen. Fortunately, India, Reserve Bank of India, handled the crisis in a way so that it could balance inflation, employment, and rate of interest. All three could be balanced, and as a result, though the world was either grappling with recession or with inflation, India kept on growing at 7%, which is consistent over all the years. And this is largely in terms of how we have tackled the so-called uncertainty that we ended up. As a result, when the world was facing this uncertainty, you also find paralysis coming in the global institutions. The global institutions like the World Trade Organization, like the United Nations, they all have faced now the crisis of multilateralism. Crisis of multilateralism is further complicated when US, which is a major funder of global institutions, has also withdrawn the resources. Be that in UNCTAD, UNESCO, and increasingly in WTO, US has stopped funding many activities. In fact, US blocked appointments of judges in the WTO code, dispute resolution mechanism as it is called, and we could not bring in any cases to a conclusion, particularly 4 such cases where US itself was a party dragged by other members of WTO. No decision could be taken because US blocked the appointment of the judges. And as a result, crisis of multilateralism has deepened further, and it is something which is going to create even greater global challenges over under this heading, the idea of further accelerating India's economic growth, the aspiration, ambition, and much more than that, determination to bring in the idea of Viksit Bharat across is something that is praiseworthy, something that we should take note of. And this is, if that's the goal, what is the challenge? If you look at a World Bank study, which very recently showed that what is a developed country, and then there are economic sort of calculations. According to World Bank, any country where per capita income is 14,000 rupees or 12 lakh rupees, $14,000 or 12 lakh rupees, that's a developed country. That's what the World Bank says. अगर किसी भी देश के अंदर पर कैपिटा इनकम $14,000 है तो वो देश विकसित राष्ट्र। अगर वो विकसित राष्ट्र है तो भारत में अभी क्या स्थिति है? 2024 का जो आंकड़ा है वो कहता है कि भारत में प्रति व्यक्ति आय $2,650। अब ये जो $2,650 या मान लीजिए $2,500, ये $2,500 से अगर हमें $14,000 का ये जो रास्ता 23 साल के अंदर तय करना है तो भारत की इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ क्या होनी चाहिए? इकोनॉमिक्स का कोई भी मास्टर्स का अगर विद्यार्थी होगा तो उसको एक्स्ट्रापोलेट कर सकता है। अगर हम एक्स्ट्रापोलेशन करके देखें तो देश की प्रगति 7.35% यदि हो तो हम इसको 23 साल के अंदर पार कर सकते हैं। अगर हम 14,000 के आंकड़े पे पहुंचना चाहते हैं तो 7.35% से भारत की आर्थिक प्रगति हो तो हम इसको पा सकेंगे। और ये मैं 24-25 की जो कांस्टेंट प्राइस है उस पर कैलकुलेशन कर सकता हूँ। तो आप देखते हैं कि ये एक लंबा रास्ता हमारे सामने है। पर कैपिटा इनकम अगर इस गति से आगे बढ़ती है तो देश कैसे आगे बढ़े? क्या होना चाहिए? क्या हमारा सोच होना चाहिए? ये जो हमारी लीगेसी है उसको हम कैसे रीऑर्डेट करें? बार-बार बनाने की कोशिश भी कर रहे हैं। कई तरह के ऐसे कार्यक्रम भी आ रहे हैं जहाँ हम समाज की उद्यमिता बनाने की बात करते हैं। लेकिन जो समाजवाद का हमारा सोच है वो कई जगह उद्यमिता और समाजवाद में आपस में कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन खड़ा कर देता है। तो इसके लिए बार-बार कहा जा रहा है कि चतुष्पंक्ति मार्ग हम सोचें। क्या होता है चतुष्पंक्ति मार्ग? तो 4 ऐसे इनिशिएटिव्स हैं जिसके द्वारा हम इस मानसिकता से ऊपर आ सकते हैं जब हम समाजवाद और उद्यमिता को आपस में विरोधाभास में देखते हैं। How to overcome this binary? 4 broad steps are being defined and we should address them. I would bring one by one. First, of course, is entrepreneurship. उद्यमिता सबसे बड़ा इस चतुष्पंक्ति मार्ग का सबसे बड़ा हिस्सा खुद उद्यमिता, entrepreneurship। दूसरा स्वदेशी, हम अपने ही देश के उद्योगों को कैसे सपोर्ट करें, कैसे हमारा प्रोक्योरमेंट सपोर्ट करें। अभी जब हमने विकसित भारत के लिए कई ऐसे कार्यक्रम शुरू करे जिसमें स्किल इंडिया हुआ, जिसमें इंडिया के इनोवेशन को बढ़ाने के लिए कई तरह के स्टार्टअप्स को प्रमोट करने की बात की, स्टार्टअप इंडिया शुरू हुआ। लेकिन हमारे प्रोक्योरमेंट में हमारे जो GFR के गाइडलाइंस हैं वो GFR की गाइडलाइंस में तेजी से बदले। इसलिए प्रोक्योरमेंट जो है, प्रोक्योरमेंट की जो आवश्यकता है, जो कंपनीज का टर्नओवर है, वो सरकार की गाइडलाइंस वो हमें रिविजिट जल्दी से जल्दी करना होगा जिससे स्टार्टअप्स के प्रोडक्ट्स को भी हम अपने प्रोक्योरमेंट्स में शामिल कर सकें। इस तरह से स्वदेशी के प्रोडक्ट्स को सामने लेकर के आना होगा। तो उद्यमिता स्वदेशी ये 2 महत्वपूर्ण चतुष्पंक्ति के हैं। तीसरा है विकेंद्रीकरण और चौथा है सरकार। विकेंद्रीकरण कई स्तरों पर डिसीजन मेकिंग का होना है। 15 फाइनेंस कमीशन ने ऑलरेडी डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पे जोड़ दिया है। स्वयं सरकार, भारत सरकार डिस्ट्रिक्ट को एक्सपोर्ट का हब, डिस्ट्रिक्ट को एक्टिविटी का हब बनाने का लगातार प्रयास कर रहे हैं। बैंक्स में भी ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा एम्फेसिस डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल के प्रोग्राम्स को लेकर के आ रहे हैं। तो उद्यमिता, स्वदेशी, विकेंद्रीकरण और चौथा है सरकार। सहकारिता कई क्षेत्रों में महत्वपूर्ण है। वो SHGs के फॉर्म में मौजूद है, वो FPOs के फॉर्म में मौजूद है, वो कोऑपरेटिव्स के फॉर्म में। कई उसके स्वरूप हो सकते हैं जहाँ पर हम सहकारिता को देख रहे हैं। सरकार की तरफ से प्रयास हो रहा है, समाज की तरफ से प्रयास उतने ही तेजी से होना आवश्यक है। और इसको देखने के लिए हम लोगों को जो देश के अंदर तैयारी है वो आवश्यक है, लेकिन देश के बाहर की तैयारी भी इसी समय आवश्यक है। क्योंकि आप हमारे पास में रिफॉर्म्स की सीक्वेंसिंग का टाइम नहीं है। 1991 में जब हमने इकोनॉमिक रिफॉर्म्स किया तब हमने सिक्वेंसिंग के ऊपर ध्यान दी, हमने बॉर्डर्स को खोल दिया, उद्योग को तैयार किया। अब हमारे पास समय नहीं है, क्योंकि अब भारत खुद अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मंच पर एक किरदार बन चुका है, एक्टर बन चुका है। हमारी भागीदारी अंतर्राष्ट्रीय मंच पर कई क्षेत्रों में आवश्यक है और उस आवश्यकता की पूर्ति के लिए हमें कई क्षेत्रों में सोचना होगा। और इसलिए जो जियोपॉलिटिक्स है, जो टैरिफ है, जो मैंने ट्विन क्राइसिस की आपसे बात करी, जियोपॉलिटिक्स में भी और टैरिफ में भी आवश्यक है कि हम उन दोनों क्षेत्रों में कुछ ऐसे मार्ग सोचें जो महत्वपूर्ण है। मैं आपके सामने 4 बिंदु उस पर रखूंगा और मैं बात समाप्त करूंगा। सबसे पहला बिंदु जो है वो मार्केट डाइवर्सिफिकेशन। भारत को ऐसे नए मार्केट्स देखने पड़ेंगे जहां हम अपने एक्सपोर्ट्स को दिखा सकते हैं। वो नए मार्केट कई तरह से सामने आ सकते हैं, उनके बारे में अध्ययन, उनके बारे में हमारी तैयारी, हमारी इंडस्ट्री की तैयारी, हमारे मिशंस की तैयारी, ये हो। और उस तैयारी को चलते हुए हमें इन मार्केट्स को आइडेंटिफाई करना होगा जहां हम अपने नए प्रोडक्ट्स को दिखे जा सकते हैं। दूसरा महत्वपूर्ण है कि जो हमारा टैरिफ स्ट्रक्चर है, अभी हमने जीएसटी में रिफॉर्म्स किए और जीएसटी के रिफॉर्म से कई मायने में जो प्रोडक्ट की कॉस्ट है उसमें गिरावट आई और उससे जो टैरिफ के स्ट्रक्चर्स में जो चेंजेस होने की जरूरत है उसके ऊपर मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉमर्स इंडस्ट्री और DPIIT ऑलरेडी दोनों विभाग इस पर लगे हुए हैं और नया टैरिफ स्ट्रक्चर बहुत जल्दी हमारे सामने आएगा। तो मार्केट डाइवर्सिफिकेशन एंड सपोर्ट फॉर टैरिफ अफेक्टेड सेक्टर्स वेयर वी कैन bring in relief to industry. More specific announcements have come from Piyush Goyal in terms of how the sectors who are going to be affected by tariff would be compensated. किस तरह से ये compensation, कितना compensation किया जाए, इस sector के ऊपर आपने जो कैलकुलेशन किया उसे ये बात साफ निकल करके आ रही है कि ऐसे सेक्टर्स जो यूएस के टैरिफ से प्रभावित होंगे उनकी उसमें लेबर इंटेंसिव प्रोडक्ट्स जो है उनकी संख्या 33% और जो हमारे MSME का एक्सपोर्ट है वो 44%। तो ये जो माननीय राज्यपाल महोदय, ये जो हमारे ऊपर प्रभाव पड़ेगा उसके लिए इन उद्योगों का हाथ पकड़ना आवश्यक है, उनका हैंड होने की जरूरत है और इसके लिए दोनों मंत्रालय काम पर लगे हुए हैं और उसकी हमें और कंटिन्यूस उसकी मॉनिटरिंग की आवश्यकता होगी। हमें लगातार उसके ऊपर नजर रखना होगी कि इन सेक्टर्स पर क्या प्रभाव पड़ रहा है। तीसरा, हमारी जो नीति पिछले 5 साल में जो सरकार का दूसरा कार्यकाल है उसमें प्रधानमंत्री के बार फैसले के बाद में सोच देश के अंदर बदला है, कॉमर्स मिनिस्ट्री में बदला है, FTA के ऊपर हमारा सोच बदला है। अब 38 देशों के साथ अपने FTAs की तैयारी कर रहे हैं। अगर आप देखें तो EFTA जो यूरोपियन फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट है, दूसरा EU यूरोपियन यूरेशियन इकोनॉमिक यूनियन और इसके अलावा UK, पेरू, न्यूजीलैंड, चिली, इन सब देशों के साथ हमारे फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट्स के नेगोशिएशंस चल रहे हैं। तो ये तो हुआ जो हमारा पार्टनरशिप है, क्या स्कोप में भी कोई परिवर्तन हुआ, क्या फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट्स के कंटेंट में भी कोई परिवर्तन हुआ, बहुत परिवर्तन। अगर हम देखें तो ये FTAs अब कई मामलों में म्यूचुअल सेंसिटिविटी के ऊपर emphasize करते हैं। अगर देश के अंदर डेयरी प्रोडक्ट्स को लेकर के सेंसिटिविटी है तो हम अपने ट्रेड पार्टनर्स को बता दें कि उसको हम नहीं खोल सकते, बाकी क्षेत्रों में हम काम कर सकते हैं। अगर कृषि को नहीं खोला जा सकता है, कृषि को नहीं खोला जा सकता है, इस संबंध में जो सेंसिटिविटी देश के अंदर है उसको फैक्टर करके भी क्या हो सकते हैं। तो ये जो मैंने आपको FTA गिनाया, EU गिनाया, UK, चिली, न्यूजीलैंड, UAE, इनके साथ जो हमारे फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट्स हुए हैं उनमें इन सेंसिटिविटीज को ध्यान रखना, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा भारत डेटा के एक्सचेंज को करना, हम लोगों की क्रॉस बॉर्डर पेमेंट आर्किटेक्चर को स्ट्रेंथन किया है UAE के साथ। अभी हम देखेंगे कि ये गुड्स में भी, सर्विसेज में भी, इन्वेस्टमेंट में भी, इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स में भी, डिस्प्यूट सेटलमेंट, इन 4-5 एरियाज में जिसमें भारत बहुत दूर रहता है, एक हैंडसम हमारा अप्रोच होता है। We have tried to bring in these new sectors in our free trade agreements, and they have ambition, the content, the texture, and also the level of ambition in terms of how we are looking at more external oriented dimensions of our free trade agreements. एक हम लोगों की जो एक्सक्लूडिंग कुछ सेक्टर्स को करने की इच्छा है, तो कुछ हमारा जोर है, उसके ऊपर भी काम चल रहा है, जिसमें रूल्स ऑफ ओरिजिन के ऊपर ध्यान दिया जाए। ऐसा क्षेत्र जहाँ पे हम चाइना से कोई अगर प्रोडक्ट आ रहा है तो उसकी एंट्री कैसे रोकी जाए, उसको कैसे कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव बनाया जाए, उसको कैसे के ढांचे में डाला जाए, इसको लेकर के जो रूल्स ऑफ ओरिजिन की फ्रेमवर्क है उसको ऊपर भी ध्यान दे रहे हैं। मैंने आपसे कहा था कि ये 4 बिंदु हैं। पहला मैंने कहा मार्केट डाइवर्सिफिकेशन, दूसरा कहा सपोर्ट टू टैरिफ अफेक्टेड सेक्टर्स, तीसरा मैंने कहा है चौथा वो है हमारा कंटिन्यूअस डायलॉग विद यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑन ट्रेड नेगोशिएशंस। हमने उसको छोड़ा नहीं है, यूएस के साथ में ट्रेड नेगोशिएशन लगातार चल रहे हैं और अभी भी चल रहे हैं। हमारा सोचना है कि शायद जल्दी यूएस इस पर एग्री करेगा। काफ़ी समय यूएस के साथ ऑलरेडी गया है, लेकिन इस बीच में जो समय मिला सरकार ने आपने देखा जीएसटी का रिफॉर्म्स लेकर के आए, 2 सितंबर से जो नई दरें लागू हुई हैं उसमें एक महत्वपूर्ण काम हमारे साथ कर करके आए। डोमेस्टिक मार्केट में रिफॉर्म्स और डोमेस्टिक मार्केट का स्ट्रेंथनिंग, उसमें जो हमारे बिजनेस हाउसेस हैं उनका हैंड होल्डिंग वो अत्यंत आवश्यक है। देश के अंदर अगर आप देखें 40 साल में लगातार ट्रेड डेफिसिट हैज बीन अ कंसिस्टेंट फीचर ऑफ आवर ट्रेड। We also see very few years of trade surplus, just 4 years. If we leave them aside, trade deficit has largely been there, but capital account surplus has largely been a source of motivation in terms of moving forward. But all these dimensions, that whether we talk of Atmanirbhar or we talk of Nalanda, they become damage, which as I said in the beginning and in the is this series with Rajbhavan and under the guidance and intellectual leadership of the governor. Our idea is to focus on what kind of development paradigm we need, what kind of development feature, what kind of issues we need to bring forward, and what is it that we do not want, and what is it that we want. In the beginning, I mentioned that some pearls of wisdom which Guru Murthy ji in each sentence drops, and I'm extremely keenly looking forward to hearing it, is one that I always enjoy in terms of doing further research. And one such sentence he said a couple of years ago in some lecture was in terms of US development paradigm. And his idea was in terms of saying that US nationalized families and the US privatized the government. So you nationalize families when you are taking away family responsibilities and going ahead with social security to take care of families. So you have left the task that the family should have done, and you have privatized the government. And आप लोगों ने भी पढ़ाई होगा कुछ दिन पहले ये सरकार बंद भी होगी, तो सरकार बंद भी हो सकती है, ये भी यूएस में हमें देखने को मिलेगा, because government has shut down, system has shut down, parliamentary approvals are not there for government. So these contradictions of US economy are no more going to give us the spotlights which are needed for the development paradigm. The Washington consensus has collapsed. We need human. Where that human will come, I hope to hear that from Guru Murthy ji and also from Honorable Governor. I stop here. Thank you for your attention.
For sharing your insightful words. And thank you very much for very comprehensively and rendering a deep analysis of not only why we have come to these uncertain times, but also showing the way forward. Under your inspiring leadership, we are very sure that Nalanda will become the incubator of your Chatushpati mark. Thank you once again, sir. Now the time has come. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to hear from a voice that has for decades refused to bend to convenience, passion or power. A voice that speaks from the depth of conviction and the clarity of scholarship. A voice that represents the best of Indian intellectual tradition, fearless, rooted, logical and uncompromising. As Vice Chairman of Vivekananda International Foundation and Part-time Director of the Central Board of the Reserve Bank of India, Shri Guru Murthy ji sits at the intersection of thought and policy, vision and execution. As the editor of the legendary Kukat magazine, he has been the conscious keeper of the Tamil Nadu's public discourse and by extension of India's democratic efforts. Recognized by India today among the 50 most powerful Indians, his influence stems not from positions but from integrity, a rare commodity in our times. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor and privilege to invite Shri Guru Murthy Ji to deliver the inaugural keynote address. Please welcome him.
Honorable Governor of Bihar, and also my friend, I'm from the last 4 decades. And we have worked together, studied together, and evolved together. And Sachin Chaturvedi, who has been working with me since the days of the Swedish government, which was my studentship to understand not only Indian economy, but global economy, the Indian society is there. I would never have understood the Indian society, the Indian civilization, their way of life, if I had not been part of the Swedish movement, which opened the entire society as an open university. And when I am sharing my thoughts, you find the shadows of this experience lengthening on me, which I will be sharing with you. And start to all, it's a very learned audience. There are vice chancellors who are responsible for hundreds of colleges, hundreds of thousands of students. And this morning I had a session with the Nalanda University faculty. It's always a pleasure to interact with the academia. Because the academia is very concerned about what is happening around. And it is that concern which is the academic capital of the nation. We are all concerned about what's happening in the world, what's happening in our country, what's happening to our economy, society, to our families. The connect between our civilization tradition and the contemporary modernity, all these pose such problems. And some of them are seemingly so impossible that we are very worried about it. Though many people do not show their worries, inside they are worried because being a corporate advisor, I find all corporate families worried about their children. How they will move. For them, the money that they have produced is the problem. On the other hand, you see poverty, and there are people who are worried about how to ensure that my child studies. You know, society is full of problems, the country is full of problems. But what is important is how many people are concerned about how to solve it. That is where the academia has to play a very important role. It did play a great role in the past, but unfortunately in the last 60, 70 years it has become so materialistic. Promotion of the self. Instead of producing intellectuals, the academic institutions began producing intelligent people. The difference between intelligent people and intellectuals is that intelligent person is concerned only about promoting himself. An intellectual is concerned about how to promote society, how to address the problem of the society. Intellectualism has gone down because careerism has overtaken the interest of the people. This always, when I was asked to be the visiting faculty at the IIT Bombay, Management Institute, the first thing I did with Management Institute students is please don't attend the campus interviews. They were surprised. I said, if you guys who are selected from among 5,000 applicants, 50 people, if you are not going to provide jobs by becoming entrepreneurs, seekers of jobs, what will happen to the other 5,000 people? So, we are not producing careerists, we are not producing people who are concerned about themselves. But I know, I have moved in that generation. I have moved in generation, when Goenka, Mr. Ajit Patmandan, Nanaji Deshmukh, Ramdas Singh, they were all sitting and discussing and persuading Jayaprakash Narayan, please leave the Bihar movement. Jayaprakash, I was sitting on the other side as the statutory auditor of Indian Express, and these four gentlemen were sitting and discussing. I was a young man. I was at a hearing distance. So JP was saying, what will I do? I have a prostate problem. I get up 5 times a day, go to the toilet 10 times a day, and I don't think I will live for a long time. If I start a movement and I die, what will happen? So it will become anarchy. So all these other key persons were persuading. Usually, Ramdas Singh was saying, I know the Nehru family and Nehru Gandhi more than anybody else. She is so out of it. Only a person like you can bring this movement seriously. JP was not convinced. So they all went, because they discussed 3 hours, they discussed only. So all of them said, I didn't know anything what happened after this. I was looking at my audit work. But after 4 months, Goenka told me what happened. There, Ramdas Singh Dinkar prayed to Lord Balaji, please give the remaining years of my life to change. And all of them went from Tirupati to Goenka's house in Chennai. And Ramdas Singh Dinkar died on the lap of Jayaprakash. This was the point. And JP took it as the divine will. Ramdas Singh Dinkar died in Chennai. Nanaji Deshmukh has written to his diary on the page of which the obituary to Ramnath Goenka, I wrote this. Why I am saying this is, I was connected to that generation, which was intensely feeling. Today what is happening is amongst the youngsters, among even the generations, among all sections of the society which have the capacity to serve because of their intellect, because of their training, because of their sufficiently very endowed personal life. If they are not going to be concerned about the society, what will happen to the society is what bothers me. In this debate, I will say, try to say what is happening in the world because of the last 40, 50 years, because of the wide experience I had, not only in the field of business and finance, but also in politics. I knows about how we work together, face challenges, and also in the media, in the spiritual field. So I happened to travel across these fields, and this gave me a profound experience. My knowledge is based on experience, if you want to call it knowledge. But this is the credentials on the basis of which I will present my thoughts. The subject that I suggested, which Sachin agreed, is Maga and Atmanirbharta in a multi-modern world. You know, it's a huge concept. It's not possible to compress it. But unless you put all of them together, you won't get an idea. You cannot discuss only about Maga, you cannot discuss only about Atmanirbharta. You have to discuss about how the world is moving from unipolarity to multipolarity. Unless you look at all this, because the world is so interconnected. The world before 1990 is different from the world today because the world has got so interconnected now. You know, in the year 1989, only 100,000 Chinese were out of China. Today there are 45 million Chinese outside China. We are 25 million Indians outside India. We are physically interconnected. Each one of them is connected to 10%. Which means 25 crore people, 30 crore people are in some way happenings. They hear the news, they want to go abroad, they want to study abroad. So the world has got interconnected in a manner unprecedented. In the last 30 years this has happened. And so to disentangle this world today in terms of multipolarity is a very big challenge for everybody, including America, It's a very plain set of facts, but unless you connect all the facts together, you will not know what is the problem of America. That's what I'm going to talk about MAGA. MAGA is an American concept, that's less than a political concept because of the leadership and the influence and the penetration that America has, as a nation, has built in the last 70 years. Second is Atmanirbharta. Atmanirbharta is basically a civilization idea. It is an idea of all societies. It's not an idea of an individual, a family, a village. In fact, one of the points that Karl Marx makes in his articles, which he wrote passionately about India in 1853, Heralds in the New York Herald, is that every village in India is self-contained, self-sufficient. Atmanirbharta. It didn't depend on anybody else. And he said that is a virtue. And it is also a weakness because the society is stagnated so much that it is not prepared for a revolution. Unless India is prepared for a revolution, it cannot prepare without anything based on the Marxian theory. So to prepare India for a revolution, the British are doing the right job of destroying the Indian society, Indian economy, Indian way of life. So India has been a very unique society. It's a unique society. It's a very unique idea. In fact, on a comparative study, I always take India because they are complete opposites. Now, MAGA means how to make America great again. In this, people don't understand there are three questions in here. America was great. America ceased to be great. How to make America great again? Three questions are there in this area. How America became great? You have to go back to how America was what again discovered and explored. Latest study shows 200 million Native Americans were eliminated. When America was declared as a republic by the white explorers, there were only 7.8 million people who declared themselves as the Republic of America, a land 3.5 times the size of India. 7.58 million people. The only way they could develop that base was because you can understand 3.5 times the size of India with 7.8 million people. So they had to bring people from Europe. They had in the year 1960, from that time to 1960, 87.5% of the Americans were non-Hispanic white Americans. Non-Hispanic white Americans means European. But 11% were black, the balance 1% to the rest. It was at that time America said that we will build America only through and mostly through immigration. That is what immigration was started. Now I will tell you what is the problem of Trump, what is the problem of America. This we cannot speak of, but that is the real problem. From 87.5%, the non-Hispanic white population came down to 70% in 2000, and it is 58% now. America is ceasing to be a white nation. America is becoming a multiracial nation. And the consequence we are seeing today, you know, in California, if somebody steals articles worth $1,000, it is not to be reported to the police, it has to be accepted as a matter of fact that the society will steal. There is chaos. And a country of 26 crore adults, that is 260 million adults, have 400 million guns. You can understand if a lighted match train of gunpowder, anything that happens, nothing can be recalled or undone. And I'm going today about the consequences which America is facing today. Tariff is a very small part of the American problem. It addresses a certain problem because America has overly, since 1976, they have been importing goods and exporting dollars. Their current account deficit for the last 39 years is $15 trillion. That is the extent of dollars they have printed and exported outside. I still remember an article which the Economist magazine wrote in 1990 that the most efficient and profitable industry in America is printing and exporting dollars. That money has gone outside. So America felt the dollar was, in fact, the whole world felt the dollar was the king and dollar was accepted as the most precious currency. How did it develop? You must go back to the war time. Then America exchanged the dollar for steel. And in 1934, which no country did, America nationalized all the gold and made private possession of gold an offense. So all the gold came to the US Federal Reserve System. And after the war, all countries got impoverished and all the gold went to America. America had 18,000 tons of gold in the US Federal Reserve System, with which it backed the dollar and made the dollar a global currency, what is known as the Veterans Conference. The IMF and World Bank were created, and everybody felt possessing dollar means equal to possessing gold. This went on till 1971. After the Vietnam War, American economy got so weak. And many countries began saying that we will sell gold, you take gold, you buy, I will sell my currency, you give gold. The whole gold economy became so weak and American gold was depleting. America disconnected the supply of gold, exchange between gold and dollar. They said, 35 ounce, I will give you 1 troy ounce of gold. $35. It was disconnected. Everybody thought America is finished. They came up with an idea. They told the Arab countries, you will sell petrol only for gold. Which means the demand for dollar was sustained because every country needed petrol and every country needed dollar. That means only America can produce dollar. And so petrol dollars sustained. And then when globalization came, American currency became the only currency which was acceptable. When the whole world was trading with each other. And dollar became the only currency. The result, they told you $15 trillion float of America. Thus, we have got about $400 billion. This is what we think we have invested in dollar. It's actually a debt of America in dollars. American debt has risen from $7 trillion in the year 2004 to $36 trillion today. They are paying an interest outlay of $1 trillion every year. Their current account deficit is $1 trillion. America is facing bankruptcy. So what Trump is doing is to save America. But whether he will save America or not, it is under business. America, by levying import duty and making imports costlier. Because what America was doing was to make imports cheaper, by which they were containing the inflation. But now they are measuring to create inflation, to ensure that the American dollar is strengthened. This is an effort, whether this effort will succeed, whether it will lead to production in America, whether it will lead to employment in America, or a question mark about which I will tell you in detail. They have weakened the society so much. America never had civilization as such. And it has weakened the society, which I will tell you. So MAGA openly is an attempt to protect the American economy. But inside there are very, very big problems. And how America, by becoming what is now known as a multi-racial society, is facing problems. I will quote just two documents. In the year 2022, 6 American chiefs of staff, that means all the army, navy, everybody put together, they have a chief of staff, like we have. They wrote a letter to Pentagon, it's available on the net. They said if Trump or Trump-like figure contests the 2024 election and loses, there will be civil war in America. The war will not be in any border. It will be within the family. It will be in the neighborhood. It will be based on color. It will be based on religion. It will be based on language. And in a country which has 400 million guns, you can understand what does that mean. So Pew Research, we just said, Pew Research, PW is a very important research organization. That is study. That America has a bipartisan politics. Both parties agree on what is good for America. It is a politically consensual nation. But what has happened is in the last 10 years, the parties have become so polarized that a Republican will not marry into a Democrat's house and vice versa. Marriages are broken on the basis the husband is a Democrat and the wife is a Republican. 60% of the Republicans hate Democrats and vice versa. In this situation, Pew Research did a good study. They said this is the problem of many democracies. Every democracy gets polarized. But the problem with America is, other than politics, there is nothing in common in America. This is not because this has not come into national discourse or global discourse because of the global order. That's what I am going to point out to you. So, there is nothing in common. There was an article in Times magazine in 2015 which compared Italy and America. Italy has 30,000 canonized saints, which means in every street, in every locality, there is a saint who is connected with Italian church. In America, till now, there are only 3 canonized saints. In 1774, 2, 1, in 2002, another 2. 3 ladies were the only canonized. There is no sacred place. There is no sacred mountain. There is no sacred person. America is a real estate. It is a top-down nation. It was created by people who had the will and who had the support of the Anglo-Saxon church. It created a society top-downwards. We must understand the creation of America was a top-down process. Whereas all other nations, whether it is China, whether it is India, or Iran, or Egypt, or Russia, bottom-upwards building up of nations. In fact, for 1,000 years we did not have a settled government of our choice. It was against us, but we still lived. In fact, when I went to Kukumela, there they say 67 crore people, 3 days I stayed. I was amazed. Who invited them? What invited them? What consciousness brought them together? So there is a huge difference. A totally divergent situation between the country which became the model even for India. We have nothing to do with that model. So the American model was accepted by the world, and that became the biggest advantage for America. And this morning I cited a particular paragraph from the United Nations Development Measures for the Development of Underdeveloped Societies before the academics and students in the Nalanda University, that if you want to develop, the nations were told by the United Nations, if you want to develop, the world philosophies have to be scrapped. All your relation-based societies, communities, families have to burst. You must all become collection of individuals. And that is what will make progress. This was the basis on which America was shaping the world and we were shaping ourselves. And that is how the whole world order was arranged. So America became great because of gold, because of petrol. because of its idea of individuals as the most important thing and human rights as the core of the Western civilization and the global order. In fact, many people do not know when H.G. Wells drafted sent the Human Rights Declaration to Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, he was asked to endorse it. Mahatma Gandhi said, I will endorse it provided you change the title from Universal Declaration of Human Rights into Human Duties. We are a duty-based society, and that's a right-based society. We have to keep it in mind before we go further to understand whether America will be able to move forward and how our Atmanirbharta will shape itself in future. So, after the World War, Cold War came, Cold War ended, Cold War resulted in globalization. That was the time when I was addressing the Indian corporates were unable to understand how to handle this globalization process. Globalization meant one order, one technology agreement, one trade agreement, one currency agreement. This is globalization in which all countries were incorporated. And this was based on the facts. A book written by Francis Fukuyama. He said all the conflicts of the world has ended and the West has finally won against the West. It is best for the West to follow the West. This was the basis of globalization. America believed that it had finally succeeded. But 3-4 developments have made America struggle inside as well as outside. One, its family structure was completely destroyed. Today only 28% of the American families are husband and wife living together still. 48% of the families are held by single parent families. In 1998, an American author wrote a book, A Fatherless America is Emerging. This resulted in the family obligation being taken over by the state. This began happening in 1960. In 1980, many American economists came together and wanted to find out how to tackle this problem, including Milton Friedman, who was a Nobel laureate. And it has come out as a book I would like Sachinji described for reading by our economics students and scholars in Nalanda University. It is US Economy in Transition by National Bureau of Economic Research. In that book, the economist said, don't interfere with the intergenerational obligations of people. Sons taking care of parents, sons and daughters taking care of parents and grandparents, and the parents and grandparents taking care of the children. Because this is a civilization of virtue, you cannot transform it into a transactional arrangement between the state and the society. In the process, what happens is you pay 2.5% tax, you will take care of your parents, you will take care of all your problems. And because of the baby booming, American population kept increasing, there were more people coming into employment. And so more people were depositing into the social security scheme. So everybody thought it was a big success. In fact, it was being suggested to the whole world that it is, you can easily replace the families by state. Nobody needs to take care of the children. No parent needs to take care of the children. It will all be taken care of by the state. That is what I meant, nationalizing families. What happened in 2006? When the population began declining, the receipts into the social security account became less and the withdrawal became more. Today, the calculation is, if the future social security obligations are reduced to the present day value, the deficit of the social security account is $70 billion, which is almost 2.5 times GDP of America. This is a time bomb ticking under the American economy. You come to India, I come to India later, but India is still discounting. If all learning Indians decide to discount the responsibilities of the parents. There will be 60 crore people before the government of India for 2 square meters a day. There will be a government. So, change in the lifestyle. Three complications. One, family obligations have to be taken up with this scale. Second, 80% of the American kitchens do not function. They don't cook at home. It has been taken on by multinational companies. You buy food, you don't buy grain. With the result, homes have become dysfunctional. Because parental care is not there. Because one need not cook. There is only bedroom left in the house. How long bedroom will sustain? 55% of the first marriage is ending in divorce. 67% of the second marriage is ending in divorce. If somebody had a report to say that 74% of the third marriage is ending in divorce. You cannot reconstruct the society because you destroy the society. Society is the social. And so, the America's problem can be reduced to tariffs, where it can be reduced to merely current account deficit. These are all matters which will in future history can judge. But as I see, the American economy is beyond reduction. And that is why the output is that Trump came before everybody thought Trump was going to create protectionism and he would work against globalization. And he would go for economic nationalism. He did all this. But Trump's main agenda was against immigration because he thought immigration has reduced the wide American population. They cannot speak it out because it will be racist. So Trump won. He began working against immigration. He put tariffs. He began working against globalization. As Sachinji said, he refused to appoint judges for the dispute settlement mechanism of WTO, which is the heart of the WTO. If anybody broke the WTO rules to levy tariff or restrictions on imports or exports, only go to the dispute settlement mechanism, and all the WTO is to into it. America, which created the WTO, had the right to appoint the dispute settlement mechanism judges. It refused to appoint. And everybody thought that Trump is behaving in a very peculiar manner. But Biden came to power. Biden continued the same policy. He not only continued Trump's tariffs, he took more tariffs. He did not appoint judges for the dispute settlement mechanism. What does that mean? That it is not Trump's policy, it is America's need. They cannot have WTO. They cannot have any trade agreement. Their currency is weak. $25 trillion is the amount of money that is circulating outside America, which is not under the control of the US Federal Reserve System. Let us assume that kind of money, Indian rupee is available outside, that they buy India. This $25 trillion can pay half of America. It is not in the hands of America. It is not from the American banks. It is not in the hands of the American corporates. It is not in the hands of the American citizens. This is not the way economists analyze America as I see. America is a very, very serious problem, and Trump is threatening to save America. Whether it will happen or not, only history can judge. But in this process, what is happening is a multi-problem. Once the pivot of global order, American economy, American power is shaken, and there is a power shift. This pivot weakens, and so there is the rise of middle powers. The Center for Policy, the Center for Foresight of the European Commission put out a report in the year 2021 that by 2030 there will be no hegemony global power, middle powers will rise, and there will be multipolarity. It is a geopolitical assessment of what is happening based on shifting GDP, based on shifting the military power. For example, 49% of the military power today is in Asia. 49% of the GDP is in Asia. By 2040, Asian GDP will overtake the Western GDP. And China, India, Russia is also now claiming to be part of Asia. All these powers rising. There is a multipolarity emerging. The multipolarity is not merely a political issue. It is a civilization issue. It is where, very importantly, the narrative is missing in the discourse. In 2006, one Sebastian Conrad came out with his thesis that the West has the central source of modernity, rooted in the Enlightenment movement, is no more accepted in the world. Every country modernizes in its own way. So there is Chinese version of modernity, there is an American, there is a Japanese version of modernity, there is an Indian version of modernity. Japan calls its modernity Nihao Jinwa. China calls it modernity Neo-Confucian. You know what happened in China in 1965-1974? They wanted to destroy all their past, all the civilizations, all Buddha statues, all statues of Confucius. They wanted to completely disconnect from the past to create a new society based on Marxian thinking. The Chinese society says, Xi Jinping said in the year 2021 Communist Party anniversary address that 5,000 years of communist civilization will show us the way now and in future, and they have opened 4,000 new Confucian centers. A communist China has yielded a Confucian China. Civilization paradigm is sweeping the world. That's why Sebastian Conrad said there are multiple modernities. There is not a single modernity, just as the source of modernity is no more accepted in the intellectual discourse, academic discourse, in politics is rejected, and Putin has declared China, Russia, as a civilization state. Xi Jinping has declared China as a civilization state. India has declared itself as a civilization state. Iran claims it so. Egypt claims it so. So the multipolarity is not a mere geopolitical concept. It is a civilization concept, and the civilization concept was suppressed by American and by the world order, and it is now coming back. So the multipolar world is not merely a world of disagreement. It is a world which is connecting its own past. This is a very, very important point in the context of what we call as Atmanirbharta. I will now deal with Atmanirbharta. Atmanirbharta is not just self-reliance. Many people think it is self-reliance. Maybe in economic sense it is less, but it is far more. I will take 4 items. I will take the Indian food model, our food security, our housing, social security, our investment model, savings. This, I spoke to the Prime Minister when he said that in the G20 meeting, when India was heading, he gave a narrative that it is one earth, one family, one future. I told him that it's a great concept, but it has to be backed by a narrative, facts. Then he asked me, how will you explain this concept in terms of facts? I told him, I'm quoting the most well-known facts. No statistics. You know the whole world, 71% is sea, 29% is earth, which is divided into forests, Iceland, is divided into farmland. 10% of the world is farmland. We have 2.4% of the global area. The entire world, if you look at it, is farmland, 2.4% global land area. 18% of the human populations live in it. 30% of the bovine population live in it. 40% of the cattle population live in it. 8% of Earth's bioresources are here. And we are containing one of the largest forest coverage, 21%. 21% forest coverage, 8% bioresources, 40% cattle population, 30% bovine population, 18% human population. How is it that we are able to accommodate all these in such a small area? If we answer this question, we will answer what is optimal health. The secret consists in the fact we use the entire agricultural land only for cereal production. America uses 75% of the agricultural land for meat. And cereals give you 83% of the calorie value. Only 17% comes from beans. Cereals give you 63% of the protein value. And wheat gives only 37% of the calorie. Because of that, we are able to feed this large population. In fact, the data I am quoting you is from ourworlddata.com, which is the most reliable source of all statistics related to the environment and Earth. If all Indians decide to eat like Americans, we will need 6 times the agricultural land we have. Our country's size will have to be 2.5 times the size. If the whole world follows Indian pattern of eating, it will be 40% of the agricultural land it uses. If the entire world shifts to the American way of eating, it needs 140% of the agricultural land it has. This food security of India rests on the fact that we are cereal eaters and we also eat meat. It's not that we don't eat meat. 65%, even 68% of the Indians are meat eaters. But our meat consumption is low. 3.5 kg per head per annum is the meat consumption in India. There are 124 kg in America. 124 kg per head per annum. And India 3.5 kg per head per annum. This is the source of food security in India. If our meat consumption goes to 25 kg per head per annum, we will not have land to produce cereals. There are cereals give you the maximum calorie. It gives you the maximum cereals with and put together fruit, vegetables, everything. We didn't have laboratory. How did our ancients find out that cereals give you 83% of the calorie value and 37% of the protein value? It is what I call as the Rishi combination. It is the same cereals found that in cereal only you get more calorie value. Now come to the environmental impact. 1 kg of meat produces 10 to 100 times the CO2 gas emission as compared to cereals. If Indians shift to the American way of eating, there will be no environment in the world, it's all over. This issue came in 2015 in Paris Summit. One group said we should have one meat-free Monday. All meat lobbies joined together, pushed them and crushed them and finished it. In COP26, our negotiators did not even take the position, see our eating habit, we contribute so much to the environment. The entire environmental debate is limited to the supply side, not the demand side. Because our people do not know how the Indian civilization is environmentally compatible. Our food style is compatible, not only environmentally compatible, this is the only way we can Atmanirbharta means that you should safeguard your eating models which are civilizationally evolved over millennia. So in America says you must get GM crops, you must open your imports for our food supplies, including meat. How can it be answered? It is not a question of product, it is a question of lifestyle. There is a meat cereal ratio in India. That meat eating is allowed, but it is also discouraged. You cannot eat on a particular day, these are all methods by which we allow meat eating, but we also discourage meat eating. With the result, we maintain the ratio of meat and cereal by which food security is guaranteed, and at the same time we are not bothering the environment. First, second, housing. You know, we have 4.5% living in a household today. In America, in 1963, 3% per household. Now 2.5. This 0.5% reduction per household in America meant constructing 35 million poor houses at a cost of $8.5 billion. In India, if this 4.5% per household gets down to 2.5% per household, we will have to build 135 million more houses. We have no space, we have no money. The damage to the environment will be unthinkable. What makes us is a trade-off. The individual rights are traded for family security. And living together is a very important aspect of Indian civilization. 3 generations living together. It's common. In 68% of Indian houses, 4 generations living together. In 25% of Indian, 35% of Indian houses, 3 generations living together. Is this the way we are talking about our housing problem? Is this the way economics is taught in India? Is this the way that the government policy mechanisms are promoted, structured? Then I come to social security. The State Bank of India study says 80% of parents live with the children. 60% of the widows live with the children. In America, it doesn't happen. Nobody bothers about anybody. It's not only a social problem, as I said, it's an economic problem. Because we don't live only for ourselves. We don't live only for ourselves. We don't save only for ourselves. In fact, in the year 2001, I advised the LIC of India to promote a family policy. Because an individual feels shy to take a personal insurance policy. So promote a family insurance policy. A person will take a family insurance. You know, family insurance policy is one of the biggest success of the years. Even the foreign investment companies are promoting family policy because they are basically a family unit. That's a civilization virtue. It cannot be created by contracts. We are a relation-based society. Not only families are related, even neighborhood is related. I will tell you an important incident which took place in my life in 1994. One of my friends was going for a bad settlement. Obviously, 100 crores for the settlement. And when he was driving out, his neighbor's wife came and said, "My husband is having heart problem, he is having chest pain, he has to be taken to the hospital." He went into the house, took her husband and went to the hospital. His back appointment went up to his home. 5 years the man struggling. He discussed. I asked him, if you had gone for the appointment, he said, "Guru, they had gone for the appointment. Something had happened to that man. I will never live in peace throughout my life. This is civilization." 6.6 lakh, 8 lakh villages and towns in this country. Please tell me how many police stations we have. Just anyone make a guess. For 6,68,000 villages and towns, we have only 14,800 police stations. Yet India is the lowest in terms of murders, dacoities, thefts, and rapes. You know, in rape, India does not figure at all in the first 100 nations. In spite of the fact that our newspapers project India as a country of rapists. Not at all. This is United Nations data. A society living together in relationship, respect for elders, respect for parents, respect for teachers, behaves in a different way. So, food, housing, social security. And then I will come to gold, about which we had discussions in the Reserve Bank also, and Sachin was present in those discussions. You know, gold is now emerging as the most important and most valuable, not only personal asset, but an economic asset. In fact, only through gold America made dollar the most accepted currency in the world. Have you any idea how much gold our Indian women have saved for us so far? The estimate is 40,000 tons of gold is in India, which is one half of the gold unearthed in the world. 80,000 tons is unearthed in the world. Out of which 40,000 tons our women have in their pockets. And it has beaten equities, it has beaten every other side. I have been following this for the last 25 years. I have also suggested a policy to the government. I don't know which government will have a political will unless this prime minister does. Nobody can do it. The suggestion I had given is this. I told the prime minister that you take the unornamented gold as a deposit in banks. Guru, I don't want to touch the ornamented gold because it is a very important issue for women. Then he told me an instance. This is very important. Last year, since he had gone for a garba in Surat, he said, Guru, there are 30,000 women dancing. And each one of them had 1 kilo of gold on them. So the 30 tons of gold was what they had in one garba. But if India is getting, unornamented gold is about 8,000 tons. That is 5,000 tons. It transforms into deposit banks. And that is sold to the Reserve Bank. This 5,000 tons becomes foreign reserve of India. You know what will be the rupee value? It will not be 88. This huge civilizational asset, family, has been only finance minister who came very near concepting an idea of economy. He had gone before the NKC metal, and it was all accepted that it was going to be the 2011 budget. But another after commenced the agitation against corruption, black money. Then he said, if I do it now and give exemptions for people who deposit gold in banks, that you will have to pay more tax. It will mean I am converting all the black money into white. And in this atmosphere, when the agitation is being led by Nalanda, India is not a big country. It's a socialist problem, financialist problem, it's savings-based problem. Because we don't save for ourselves. There is one Brookings Institution economist, Barry Bosworth, his name, in the year 2008, he wrote a report that we Americans save for ourselves. This person said, Asians save Their savings is dynasty. They save for their grandchildren. You know how much stability the society has when it keeps sons and grandsons. In America, everybody thinks only for himself. So it is a short-termist society. Overnight interest rates drive the American return. So we have a very different approach to this. Believe to be a pattern of life. I link it like this. Philosophy of life decides the goal of life. Goal of life decides the lifestyle. Lifestyle decides one's habits. Habits decide what one needs and doesn't need. And that decides what should be produced and should not. That's a link. To disturb the philosophy of life, everything gets fixed. So we have now a market-based drive to sell, then a need-based way of buying. You know, I have seen in my own life, we used to be with 4 pants and 4 shirts. Now I see men have as many pants and shirts as women have had. 30, 40 pants, shirts. You know, we are living far beyond our need, which is not needed. This is the marketing influence of the American time. It is not only against economics, it is against environment, it is against simplicity. It is against culture. So, my opinion is that we should not allow our kitchens to be commercialized through someone else. Don't convert your kitchen into market value for someone. We have to find an answer. We need large scale living. Our family structure has to be saved. Then only our social security will be in place. Our food security will be in place only if we do not allow our agriculture to be invaded by American products or American technology or American cereals or American meat. This is not only importing a product, we can import a product or stop the product or maybe die from the product. If we import the lifestyle, there is no way you can avoid the import of the product. So, lifestyle is the most important ingredient of Atmanirbharta, and when we are getting into a multi-polar world, every nation will have to follow its own idea of Atmanirbharta, and the world is not going to be under one hegemonic power, and whether the transition will take place peacefully or in conflict, we don't know. But India has arrived. Nobody can ignore India because India is perhaps the most stable in the world. Look at the global situation everywhere. Leave aside China, it's not a good place to talk what is happening in China. Nobody knows because in the last 25 years, in the last 5 years, Xi Jinping has dismissed over 40 officials, 20 army commanders. We don't know what is happening in China. Now what happened in China? Because it is an iron force. But if you look at all the democratic nations and India, we are probably the most stable democracy and society in the world. That is because of the civilization virtue which we have inherited, not being debated. I would like the academics to take a big way because this is what I have been saying since I began leading this Foundation movement in the 1990s. I am extremely happy with the hard subject, particularly that you got me an opportunity to share my idea with innovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We are very, very grateful. What we have just heard is not a speech, it is a compass. In your words, we find both caution and courage, realism and hope, the weight of history and the space of possibility. Thank you for making the way. The very role of university, which is not to just produce mere intelligent ones, but the intellectual ones who are inspired to be Atmanirbhar with the awareness of their own civilizational models that have evolved over millennia. Being aware of the very interconnected nature of this multipolar world. You have given us much to reflect upon, much to debate, and much to act upon. Where we lack and what are true potential. I'm sure it must have ignited the inquisitive mind of our audience. And with this, we come to the very democratic part of today's evening, which is the question answer. And I request anybody who has a question to address, please briefly identify yourself and address your question to Guru. Okay, we can start from the first row. Can we have the mic, please? The first row.
You said that we are intelligent, we have to transform into intelligence. The basic ingredients of Atmanirbharta, that is Kutum Prabodhan, societal way of life, Indian way of life, and especially the food security and social security, that ratio of cereal and meat. My question is very simple, sir. How to achieve it? We are going in a different direction. So what are the solutions of sustaining this and going forward?
Of course, modern Western ideas are technology. In fact, it has affected even China is supposed to be a very different. But we are not going to be that affected. The statistics show that our meat consumption was 5.1 kg per hectare in 2000. It is 3.5 now. So there is something working in this country. Actually, meat is sold, not cooked in India. So it is not that we are moving away from our food. Though the media, though the public discourse, even the government policies seem to be not focusing on Indian civilization. I think people are sticking to our civilization. That is what the State Bank of India has really shown. But what I am interested in is, are we becoming conscious of it or are we unconsciously civilization? I want us to be consciously civilization. I want us to own this as proud virtue. You know, we have experimented, and I am not one of those persons who speaks by reading. I actually work on the ground. We conducted a huge program in schools in Chennai because there were problems between students and teachers, between parents and teachers, between parents and children. So we decided to undertake 3 programs. Acharya Vandan in school. But it is only the child, if the student wants to participate and the parents volunteer to participate. All teachers were worshipped in 3,500 schools. Parents were worshipped. Matruputra Vandan. Then we said, for nature, you worship me. All volunteer. Of course, we made huge amount of effort, employed huge amount of time on this. We transformed the atmosphere in schools in Chennai. It was unbelievable, the transformation. The teachers felt so respected. Hundreds of teachers cried. The students and teacher relationship got transformed. This is civilization. It is possible. But you can't expect the government to do all this. We need people's participation. And I am not one of those who feels that the Indian civilization is
So with your permission, we'll take 2-3 questions together.
Yes.
Very good evening. I'm Indian Council and regional passport. It was extremely enlightening. Thank you for your performance. I hope you enjoyed it. Just one question. GDP, GHI, and this whole narrative of sustainable development. I personally see inherent contradictions in these three concepts, and one doesn't know how do you grapple with this as a country?
Thank you. Can we have the next question as well? Okay, we have the girl in the fourth row. Please go ahead.
My name is Rajbhavan, and my question is, when commerce now has been weaponized, the way we are seeing the conflict between US and China, so how does India see protecting itself in this scenario? Weaponizing commerce, that is trade, which was earlier, in a rule-based society, it was working in a very different way through WTO, not anymore now.
Thank you. One from the fourth row.
Good evening, sir. My name is Sakshi Gupta. I am Master of Students from International Relations from Nalanda University. So, as you very interestingly mentioned about the very concept of Atmanirbharta in the civilizational form, my major doubt is that when we talk about pitching it, the very values of civilization in multilateralism, are we able to particularly achieve that on the multilateral forum, or do we particularly start getting in terms of mini-lateralism with the like-minded countries, for example, as you mentioned, India, China, and Russia having civilizational background. And in that sense, if we pitch it through mini-lateralism, do we further lead to fragmentation of this multipolar world? Thank you, sir.
One here.
Hello.
Thank you very much, sir, for such an enlightening lecture. I think I totally agree with Professor Sachin and your idea of civilization. But I have just one thing to ask. How do we go ahead to improve the poverty, to improve the employment? How do we actually use this as a tool to improve our own system and such, because we are still so-called underdeveloped. So I really try to answer, who can answer these things, because civilization and everything is absolutely very, very difficult. We are everything. How will we do all this?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes.
Please.
Thank you very much. I'm student of law and have been following your work with great admiration. And I'm aware that the government of India has the highest importance in your views on economic policies. But as a student of law, my concern is that while we are becoming a 5 trillion economy and are on our way to become a Viksit Bharat by 2047, but on the other hand, we have rising inequalities. Some about 10% people or 1% people having 40% of wealth, and then bottom 50% people having just about 6% of wealth. So when will maybe we become a Viksit Bharat, and we would very much like to be there, but when will India attain the level of Scandinavian countries? When we will be there in terms of social security and other parameters?
Thank you.
See, this GDP and this inequality issue are mostly the issue of statistical understanding of nations' performance. It doesn't really address the underlying problem, and it doesn't bring up the underlying prosperity. For example, the family system in India is one of the most important means of taking care of poverty. The relationship-based methods is one of the most important methods of distributing. But that is not addressed in the overall GDP understanding, because that only talks about an individual's income. How the individual's income is used, that is not being addressed. I can tell you from my experience. No one's income belongs to only himself in this country. No one's income belongs to only himself. It is shared through relationship. In contract-based situation, nobody shares with anybody. So we are not a contract-based society. So the GDP of a contract-based society cannot be applied to the GDP of a relation-based society. But there is no mechanism by which you can say how to distinguish between the two. In fact, I can tell you my experience with the Swadeshi movement when I traveled around the industrial clusters. How technology was shared through relationship, not through market. Everything happens through relationship. The entire Tirupur development, which has developed as the advanced center of the world, the World Bank captured in its 2002 development report that it happened because of community and family relationship. Not even through bad funding. But this is not how we understand India's development model. So, the GDP of India, and we will be a $5 million economy, is around statistical understanding of India. The underlying civilization factors which make India work are very, very different. It is not captured in the academic or even policy making in this country, has been my understanding. So far as weaponization of trade and commerce is concerned, this has happened only because of globalization. This is at least what is wrong. But this cannot happen unless there is going to be a world of disorder. I don't expect a world of disorder because no country wants disorder. In fact, there will be a third world war. I will say no, because no country has a propensity for war. Even if there is a war, it will be for 10 days or 15 days or 30 days. For example, India and China came close to a war. In fact, I was very much involved in the understanding of what is happening at that time. They have kept the law will go on for 20-21 days. And they may enter some place and we may enter some place. Even the territories will not be very much negative to us or negative to them at the end of the war. But if the war becomes non-border war, then there will be great destruction. Nobody, neither India nor China was interested in that non-border war. That means they hitting some Bombay and hitting some Shanghai, because nobody wants destruction. So my feeling is that this weaponization will be handled through bilateralism, trilateralism, and minilateralism, as somebody mentioned. Because every country has to develop, every country has to tackle economic problems, and no country can do it on its own. So it will find its partners. Strategic partnership will be the guide for future when WTO fails. WTO is failing, on that there is no doubt. So multilateralism will yield place to bilateralism largely, trilateralism, plurilateralism, minilateralism, whatever you call it. Every country will find its own friendly other countries. For example, the Australian ambassador met me because I hate to make on the international foundation. He told me, we find India is perhaps the most stable economy and the most stable democracy we can give. You know, your brand is different today. Your brand is not the brand of 1960s and 70s when India was regarded as not capable of development, not qualified for development in terms of what Karl Marx and Max Weber said. India is regarded as an entrepreneurial economy. In fact, the Mudra scheme that was devised has unearthed millions and millions of entrepreneurs. We are an entrepreneurial economy. We are neither a capitalist economy nor a socialist economy because we are an entrepreneurial economy. That is why neither capitalism nor socialism could overall India. Because 70% of the Indians are self-employed. It's a very peculiar country. So, we will be able to deal with, for example, a country like China. We may have border problems, but we have no civilization problem. We have a civilization problem with Pakistan. We don't have a civilization issue with China. In fact, we have a common basis of civilization between China and India. And if the world becomes split into this country and that country and this group of country and that group of country, I think even the enemy between India and China will increase because it is much easier for China to deal with India and India to deal with China because we have no other clash except war. So far as tackling of poverty is concerned, you should not take into account market capitalization and based on the inequality. Inequality has increased only because of market capitalism. Mukesh Ambani, 45 billion dollars. But that is not done with the ownership of the company. If you have a company as a listed company, that will not figure as success. Because of market capitalization, and market capitalization is based on the value because of the huge amount of financial influx that has gone into the stock market in the last 30 years. There is the booster. That is where Piketty was wrong. Piketty calculated market capitalization as the basis to take into account the difference between the lowest percentile and the highest percentile group. The theory was not right. So my feeling is we require an alternative way of understanding inequality. I think inequality should be seen more as inequality of opportunities rather than inequality of statistical number of wealth. We should create more opportunities. For example, 3 schemes of India have changed because I was also involved in how schemes. One is Jan Dhan Yojana. When it was promoted, the Reserve Bank said we won't accept more than 1 crore accounts. Financial Ministry said not more than 3 crore. Prime Minister said in the next 4 months I want 7.5 crore accounts. It is now 54 crore accounts. And the next thing was this direct benefit transfer. Direct attack on property. Nobody can take 1 rupee from the pockets of the government, which reaches the ultimate. All the anti-poverty measures directly go to people. The third thing is the Mudra Yojana, which has produced, because I was personally working as part of it, because it was not implemented the way it should have been, but it has been successfully implemented. It has made an entrepreneurial model the way of economic growth of India. So I feel that once a person is made to work for himself and is given capital with opportunity, then poverty can be eroded, but we didn't attempt. Only in the last 10 years we have actually attempted to bring down poverty. So I think we have to wait and we have to promote our own relation-based society to address the poverty issue, lack of opportunity issue, and social security issue, food security issue, housing issue. All of this cannot be regarded purely as economic issues. There is a civilization of social
got it, sir. Thank you very much. I think the time allows one more round of question from that side. Anyone from this side? Has any question?
What about this?
If not, then this. They are on the right side. Okay, please ask.
I just
Please.
I just have to quote one thing. Even if Trump would have not won the elections, the aura which Western countries have, that would still be there. How, as a student of Hindu studies, I have questioned how our ancient educational system should be used to ingrain, promoting the inner self in the mind, so that people can work towards, Atmanirbhar Bharat rather than just taking that aura which Mega has made in the
Okay, thank you.
society.
Any other question?
My name is Sexy Morma and I'm from Bangladesh and I'm studying in the Buddhist Studies department. My question is, as you mentioned that in the USA, America, most of the people are getting isolated from the family. So there is a book that The Lonely Crowd. So in that book, the author mentioned that majority of the families people in the USA, they are getting actually socially isolated. So, but in Indian tradition, we live in a society, as you mentioned. So, sir, as a Buddhist studies department, that I want to ask you that do you think some sort of religious influence that we have living together in a family, some, as you said, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Fine. Okay, one last question from this side. Okay. Please keep the mic.
Population growth, India compared to US, what was this context, how this will work out? Thank you. So just wanted to add one question. First of all, very insightful your thinking. All this while I think that perhaps Donald Trump is talking about US, but I think we got a different perspective. I want to know from you, what is it, I'm a banker by profession, and as a banker I think about risk as well. So what is it that India should be more careful about, so that this 2047 Viksit Bharat, this actually stands a two chance? So what is it that we should be very careful about? What is that one mistake that we should not do in this journey?
Okay, the last one, the second one. One minute.
Thank you, sir, for the nice presentations and Satish, sir, and you have given and it is widely very good and it was an eye-opening, I will say, in many senses. So you told about the virtues of the family system and the positives of the interrelationship and whatever the good relationship with the family system we have in India. And also you related to its effect on the GDP and the new concepts and the new views on the one should think of about the GDP. So with the increasing penetration of the social media and with the internet, I think there are some negative effects also coming in the society. So sir, whether this in the long run will be a very negative thing for our this fabric of the family culture in India. So government should come out with some policies because many of our youths are involved in taking reels and all.
And Dr. First.
I have one comment.
second part. So the person who has lived in America, she was asked what would be your advice. She said the same thing what you said today. Like as long as Indians follow their food habits and culture, we will be the number one in the global. So there was a really yes, that they have so many things at the end conclusion because of this in the culture and food habit issue. My question is here, like, you said like the population and all these things, but when the person is educated and they get more earnings, they restrict with either a single child or no children. Whereas a person like, for example, I read an article in the 1 week back in Times of India, there they categorized India 1, 2, 3. India 1 as a top 10% average income is 1.5 lakh US dollar, like roughly around 14 lakhs to 15 lakhs. Another 20% in the annual average income is $3,000. And another 70% Indian average annual income is $1,000. As you said, right? So how are we going to address, and mostly this 70% rely on the government subsidies and government freebies. So how are we going to address 70% through this urban example?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sir.
The time is on.
So the first question, will you clarify the question? You.
Even if Trump would have not won the elections, the aura which is created by the term mega would have been as a dominance of that country. How we can use ancient educational system so that that type of nationalism can be ingrained into the intellectual mind to go towards the inner self rather than just the external self, so that we can reach towards Atma-Nirbhar.
See, the single one sentence answer to you is, this is not today's American nationalism. American nationalism is a super nationalism. Though Indian academia and all accepted the American superiority, American way of doing things, the Indian civilization virtues have not been affected by our academics, our policy makers, our media, social media which is being talked about. There is something which is binding us to them. Otherwise, 67 crore people did not go to Kumbh. I have seen people lifting 10 kilos, 20 kilos, walking 50 kilometers. Children on the shoulders. Elder people being lifted by 2 people. What is it? There is no age difference. I found maybe 60% of them are youngsters. So I don't believe that there is this westernization or modernization or the media effect is having such an adverse impact. It is creating disturbance. But I think we have enough. For example, I looked at Mata Amartanandamaya, Sri Darshan. These movements were not there. See the kind of spiritual regeneration that is taking. We are missing. So I am not one of those who is shaken by a kind of social media explosion of nonsense. But the social media is also spreading very right news. So both are going to be there. In fact, I find, and maybe there will be a mini America in India, but it will still be an exception. It will not become a model. Next thing is about how the US family system, how Indian family system is being supported. Is it being supported by religion? No, it is supported by dharma. Respect for parents is not limited to any particular religion. Respect for teachers, respect for women,
You know, one of the things which is wrong in the Indian discourse is everybody wants respect. Nobody wants rights. People demand rights only because they think they are not respected. Most important thing is we built an architecture of mutual respect. That's what teaches the respect, parents the respect, and elders the respect. You know, in my house, in my village, my mother used to wait till 12 o'clock to see whether any Atiti is coming, and then only she would not take it. Very normal cultural underpinnings of India. That anyone can come and take food in your house and you will wait for it. And there are thousands of villages, it happens even today. This is not on the radar of our education system. This is your fault. So my feeling is, so long as the sense of karma is there in society, we need not have to bother about the kind of adverse impact of what is happening in the world. And one person asked the question, for Vikasit Bharat 2047, what we should do and what we should not do. Now it is very clear that the Western model is the failing model, has been admitted by the West itself. So for 50, 60 years we were misguided into believing that the Western model is the model. Now don't think Western model is the successful model. Once you understand Western model is not the successful model, then you will understand our model is the best model. Then you will begin looking into it, and I think by 2047, India will emerge as the model for the world. From world, people will come and study how Indian families are working, Indian communities are working, how crime levels are low in this country, how entrepreneurship is being promoted by communities. There will be a very different picture. And in 2001, I delivered a lecture in San Jose, in America. The title of the lecture is Indian Economy is Feminine in Character. The entire Indian civilization, economy, family, owes its stability to the women of India. We have not really factored it into our academic system. It is women who hold the families together, relationships, savings. They will never waste it. If at all there is any fight between me and my wife, it is on whether it is to throw something out or not throw. They will find usefulness in a waste. They will turn waste into wealth. In America, they turn wealth into waste. I have seen how useful cars are being flattened in America. But here in the Charis program, the one is there. So we are a conserving economy. And we are feminine in character because we are savings oriented economy. So Indian economy, so long as it maintains its feminine character, it will emerge as an example to the world by 2047 because civilizational values are becoming a paradigmic value shift in the world. And I answered to family and social media so far as your question about educated people having one child. This demographic shift has harmed all the countries. For example, after 50, 60 years whether Japan will exist as a country is a question. It is happening in most Western countries. Scandinavian countries may not exist after maybe after 21st century, they may not exist. It is because people have moved away from the traditional way of life. In India also there will be a very large section which will move away from the traditional way of life because they are personal comfort. But 75-80% of India will continue to be culturally compatible with its way of life. And that is what matters. We can easily afford a small America in India and that will not become the model for India. So I am not bothered.
Thank you very much for your words of wisdom. Thank you very much for being very, very generous with your time and sharing very detailed response with the audience. Also, thanks to audience for asking very interesting and significant questions. Now we have come to a very significant segment of this evening, as much as the lecture series is about the theme, it is also about the context in which it is held, the values it upholds, and the vision it serves. And that context, those values, that vision are embodied in the office and the Honorable Chairman today, His Excellency Honorable Governor of Bihar. We are honored, we are humbled, and we are eager to hear from your reflections. Please join hands in inviting His Excellency Shri Arif Muhammad Khan, Honorable Governor of Bihar, to the dais.
There we have this strongly printed. Shri Gurmurti ji is chairman of the Vivekananda International Foundation and part-time director of the Central Board of the Reserve Bank. And he is my chairman also. Because I have been to serve on the governing council of the Vivekananda International Foundation, so he is my chairman too. Vice Chancellor of Nalanda University is also very old friend, and I had the privilege to go to his hometown to deliver memorial lecture, which his family has situated in memory of his father or grandfather, who was Law Secretary of Madhya Bharat. I believe we have here honorable judges of the Patna High Court, senior administrative and police officers of Bihar, senior officers, Government of India, Vice Chancellors and Registrars, and other people associated with our universities, some principals of the colleges, members of the academic community, ladies and gentlemen. First, I must express my profound gratitude to Shri Gurmurti ji for having accepted our invitation, and Nalanda University Vice Chancellor has also already explained to you that we had a few meetings and we had decided to start this lecture series under the auspices of Nalanda University and Bihar Rajbhavan. Gurmurti very kind agreed to inaugurate this series and give the first lecture here. We are indeed thankful to you, sir. The topic today has been Atmanirbharta and Make America Great Again. These are the two ingredients of the topic. As far as I don't want to take much of your time, but when whether it is President Trump or some other American, when they talk of Make America Great Again, then suddenly to my mind came that if we read George Kennan, who was director of the policy planning staff of the U.S. Department of State in 1948. I hope you will listen to his words attentively. This whole phenomena of mega will become clear. He says, we have about 50% of the world's wealth, but only about 6% of its population. The population is less than 6%, and the wealth of the world, 50%, is owned by America. Now he says, America is known as the world's oldest democracy. They claim to be champions of human rights and all other humanitarian causes. The man who was responsible for framing the policies of the USA, he writes in black and white. This is not just opinion. This is a policy document. He says our real task in the coming period is to devise a pattern of relationship which will permit us to maintain this position of disparity, without positive detriment to our national security. To do so, we will have to dispense with all sentimentality and daydreaming, and our attention will be concentrated everywhere on our immediate national objectives. We should cease to talk. I am emphasizing. We should cease to talk about vague and unreal objectives such as human rights, the raising of the living standards, and democratization. The day is not far off when we are going to have to deal in the state power concepts. The less we are then hampered by idealistic slogans, the better. This is a policy document of the State Department made by George Kennan, who was heading that particular department. Essentially, and we should not be surprised. Now that the ground is slipping from under the earth, therefore they are raising these objective slogans, objective to their own, reminding them that we were the dominant power in the world, and now somehow we have to reclaim that position, which I think will be very difficult in the world which is emerging. And you know, when you have power, in our tradition, there is a beautiful shlok which says, Vidya Mado, Dhana Mado, Tirtiye Abhijata Mado, Eta Mada Abhadittana, Etat Eva Satam Dhamma. Tulsida Gita said, you put a fire, we say Vatna, if I remember correctly. So our tradition tells us that if you possess knowledge, and that must be extraordinary, if you have a lot of money, if you come from a family which has a noble heritage, then people who do not have a cultivated mind, a cultured mind, an evolved mind, it inherites them. It creates ego in them. But the same attributes, same characteristics, Etat Eva Satam Dhamma, but the same attributes, as far as a person of cultivated, evolved mind is concerned, a cultured mind is concerned, जिसे हम संस्कार कहते हैं, the same characteristics, the same attributes, the same qualities, instead of creating mud, these very things create Dhamma. Dhamma is self-control, self-restraint, humility. So we should not be surprised if, because the cultures which have a history of always thinking in terms of supremacy, because we are right, therefore we are higher than others, because we give an expression to our faith or for a revered some noble figure, and those who do not accept them, they are inferior to us. We speak certain language, therefore we are superior to others. But we should never forget that the whole world recognized the principle of dignity of mankind only in 1948, which is not even 100 years old. Why there was need for the Declaration of Human Rights? The history of civilization, human beings have existed on this planet for more than 2 or 3 billion years. But history of civilization is also about 10,000 years old, 12,000 years old. This 12,000-year-old history is marked by each group claiming to be superior to others and denying human dignity to others. India, I am not saying because I am an Indian, make an objective study. Indian culture and civilization is the only culture in the world. The world recognized dignity of mankind in 48. We started our civilizational journey with the concept of divinity of mankind. Today, the United Nations recognizes Vedas to be the oldest book in the world. The 4 months established by Adi Shankara, he took much. The meetings do not create any awareness or unity. It were the 4 Mahavakyas which he took from the 4 Vedas, which he gave to each one of them. Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvam-asti, Ayam Atma Brahma, and ultimately Prajnanam Brahma. All indicating to the divinity of mankind. So this is the cultures which claim to be, which deny giving human dignity to others. And a culture which saw divinity in every being, not just men and women, even in plants, animals. And if you go to certain schools of thought like Kashmiri Shaivism, that even to inanimate subjects, they recognize each other. Therefore, somehow, here, whatever Murthy spoke was delightful to our intellect, our nature. But somehow I feel that comparing, I'm not claiming any superiority, no. I recognize and accept that every society has a right to develop in accordance with its own genius. But then, as Indians, we should try to know what is India's genius. India's genius is Even when we talk of Viksit Bharat, Atmanirbhar Bharat, regarding the Atmanirbharta, there is a beautiful small story in Mahabharata that when Bhagwan Krishna went as an emissary to Hastinapur, the final attempt to find peace in ever war, then he did not accept the invitation of Duryodhana to have a meal with him. He went to the house of Vidur. At Duryodhana's place, sumptuous meal would have been served. At Vidur's place, what he ate was the food prepared by the vegetables which he used to grow in his own small kitchen garden. And we should not forget that among all the luminaries in the court of Dhritarashtra, right from Bhishma Pitama to others, then I won't say that whatever was done there was against the rules or law, but was definitely not in agreement with the rules and laws of morality and ethics. Like this ruling of Guru. Was there anybody in the whole court who objected to that? He was the only one. Why he was there? Not just on one occasion, on several occasions. Even when this conspiracy to build a house of inflammable material, even then, why he was in a position to speak to the powers that be? Because he was Atmanirbhar. Enjoy the royal privileges or the facilities which they would have been extended to. So Atmanirbharta is the importance of Atmanirbharta, self-reliance, cannot be underestimated. Whether it is country, whether it is any particular society, any city, or even individual. We have been told that here they come to Siarte. Giramam Siarte, Tyage Kulam. Giramam Janpad Siarte, Atmarte Prithvi Teje. When it comes, you should be ready to sacrifice your interest, your family's interest for the village interest. And you should be ready to sacrifice the village. For Janpat was used because India was politically fragmented. So these small states, Janpat was the term which was used for them. So you should be ready to sacrifice for them. But when it comes to your own conscience, acting according to the dictates of your own conscience, antakaran, so here, even if you have to sacrifice the whole Prithvi, you should be ready to sacrifice. That again is in accordance with the principle of Atmanirbharta. Now, as I said earlier, that we have to find out what is our genius. What is India's genius? India's genius is India in the past and not in recent past, since ancient times. India was recognized as a knowledge civilization. India was recognized as a knowledge hub. And our sages, they envisioned an India where students from all over the world, they will come to India not to learn about India. Even if they want to go for higher learning about their own culture, their own society, then they will come to India. What does that? Which means we will have teachers of such high caliber. Etat desha parshu tasya sakashat ataraj anmana swam charitram shikcheram prithviyam sarvam anava. People from all over the world. Vishnu is not an upadhi. Vishnu is a role. Can we say with satisfaction that we can perform this role today? We are not able to educate even our own children. In fact, just before the announcement of the election, I went to Pune and I was told that the best college in Pune, whenever any election comes, whether it is Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha, local bodies or anything, that best college of the district, even the principal is sent outside for 3 months. This is the importance which we give. This is the priority of education. I had told them, please send me a note immediately. Somehow they were not able to send me a note, and I could not take up this matter with the election commission or the government. But I felt so sorry I can't take it. I felt so sad, not sorry. This is the importance which we attach to education. When we describe India as knowledge hub or knowledge civilization, you don't really feel like praising yourself. But if you see the old documents of the other countries, in 11th and 12th century, European Renaissance had not fully taken off. But Middle East, particularly Baghdad region, was much big intellectual. The 5 great Arab historians, right from Tabari to Ibn Rushd, what they have written. Each one of them has written the history of the world in 9, 10, 11 volumes. In the first volume, in the first chapter, everybody says there are 5 civilizations in the world, major civilizations, and other countries only follow. The Persian civilization is known for its majesty. Chinese for their craftsmanship and obedience to the rulers. The Romans for their beauty and chivalry. The Turks for their creativity. And India is the only teaser. This is the English translation I am quoting. These are not my words. These are words of Tabari, the first historian. That India is the only civilization which is known for encouraging and promoting wisdom, knowledge and wisdom. Now, we have a picture or not to look what we are doing now. And I know economics is a subject which somehow, right from my student days, I am scared of it. But I think I have made up by making good friends like Gurmukhi. See, there are many economists who are very good friends, so I think I have tried to make up that ground. But I am of the opinion that, like Swami Vivekananda had said, India has only 2 ideals, national ideals: renunciation and service. intensify having these two channels, the rest will take care of itself. Likewise, I feel that if we really become aware of our cultural heritage, if we come to know about our ideals and value our cultural ideals and values, and they will improve not only our social life, our political life, but they will improve our economic life also. As you have rightly pointed out, that this culture has the capability to take care of the poverty anywhere. Where our inspiration comes from? In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, Sakta karmani abhipasa yatha kurvanti bharata Kuyat vidwan tatha sakta chikishu loka sangharnam. All of us, each one of us, not all of us, each one of us, we work hard to make life comfortable for ourselves, our family, people whom we know. But here Lord tells Arjuna that Arjuna, each one is inspired, motivated, actuated by personal desires, selfish interest. Because they do not have the knowledge. But a man who has knowledge, who has jnana, he works equally hard. But his inspiration comes from why he works does hard work? To ensure loka sangharham. Loka sangharham, welfare of mankind, not in welfare of India. Welfare of mankind, welfare of the world. I am in Paroviti Garda Rakucheta Sam, Darja Pita Namko, Vasudev Kunumkam. We need to take it. We need to test each one of us. And I'm not talking about those who are sitting here. Each Indian, whether his ideas and values will motivate us. There is no interest is served by complete service to anyone. Nobody has time. If you are happy, people will join you in service. If you are complaining against USA or anyone, who cares? And I'm एक उर्दू का शेर मुझे याद आ गया, तकदीर के काजी का ये फतवा है अगर से की सजा मर के मांगे. The Lord of the Destinies has decreed since day one that if you are weak, then this is a sin, and the punishment of the sin is that you will be finished. हमने क्या, मैं आपसे पूछता हूँ, we were called Swami and we were so prosperous that we attracted people from all over the world. हमारे पास we had no power. How is it possible that we were so prosperous and we were going to power? No, we became devoid of power because, as Swami Nalanda has said in his famous work, Eternal Values for a Changing Society, that we were worshippers of Ma Saraswati, but worshipping Saraswati means not only acquisition of knowledge, tapas or nirata, but the process is completed when the acquired knowledge is shared with others. Swami Vivekananda has said so, but Swami Rajbhavan has written in detail, and he has quoted a line from Shri Bhagwan. Saraswati Gyan Kharg Yatha Sati, a scholar who citizens' knowledge within her own self is not a devotee of Saraswati, is a villain of Saraswati. If it, maybe I have the opportunity to give my views on Viksit Bharat, Atmanirbhar Bharat. There have been several meetings. We are all going to Australia and other people countries. And I will decide that we will become real Viksit and we will become real Atmanirbhar. Then we recognize our genius, and our genius is Indian mind is really something very different. वो अमेरिका में मुझे ओबामा के जमाने में याद है के मैथमेटिक्स पढ़ो नहीं तो हिंदुस्तानी आ रहे हैं कुछ बात तो है और देखिए इस वर्ल्ड इज एवरीथिंग एनीवेयर ये पैराडॉक्स At the same time, in the same city, maybe in the same mohalla, एक तरफ this is beautiful music, delight, and at some distance, waves of revolution. People in pain, sorrow, grief, watching Nari Ramya, watching Ravi Jara. Here the word was very used Nari, but I feel Nari Purush कोई खूबसूरत लोग, स्वस्थ लोग, healthy people. And then can you will see some others whose bodies have decayed, almost decomposed. Watching Vidvat Ghosh, like this meeting we are sitting here and discussing problem intellectual, are sitting reasoned, informed debate is going on. Watching the Sura Marta Kala. और उसी वक्त कहीं पे आप जाएंगे थोड़ी दूर पे तो शराब पिए हुए एक दूसरे से बाकी आर्गुमेंट होगा ऐसा नहीं कि वहां आर्गुमेंट नहीं लेकिन वहां जिस तरह का आर्गुमेंट होगा वो आप समझ ना जाने संसारा कि अमृत नया विश्व नोबडी को कितना अमृत है और कितना विश्व सो आवर ड्यूटी इज टू कंटिन्यू आवर विल ऑफ अमृत we are growing but each one of us has a duty. Whatever good we can contribute, we should contribute. And again, Murthy ji, thank you very much for enlightening us on a subject not at all. I personally you are from today onwards, normally you are thank you. Yoga Samastha Ganga
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद Your Excellency. Thank you very much for a very enlightening address. Thank you very much for reminding us of our duties. And thank you for reiterating the true understanding of Atmanirbharta that is rooted in India's own civilizational genius, which always promoted wisdom and the development driven by the wisdom and not by the material wealth. Thank you once again for presiding over this historic beginning. This is just a beginning, and we are going to have many more such vibrant and profound lectures as a part of the Rajbhavan and Nalanda University series. And on behalf of everyone present here, and on behalf of the countless minds that will be touched by the rivers of this evening, we offer our deepest gratitude to all the esteemed speakers sitting on the dais. Thank you once again very much for your enlightening us. A very thank you to everyone in the audience. And before we conclude, I request everyone to please once again rise for our Ashram.